Okay, hello, good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you are able to enjoy your lunch. At the same time, enjoy and get rejuvenated with our roundtable session today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to give it about 30 seconds to make sure everyone that wants to join can join. So we'll just wait for a bit here. We'll go ahead and get started with the next slide. Thank you. As we're waiting for a couple more people to join, there were folks that were having difficulty getting in. We want to ask you this question and want you to put your response in the chat for us, please. What are your hopes for this session today? I know you'll be getting a lot of information and material. We just want to see what you were hoping to get out of the day. So please share in the chat. Thank you. And we'll give a minute for that. Okay. We will begin now, and hopefully we'll be able to come back to the chat and get some of your responses that our presenters will maybe comment on and incorporate as they do their continuing presentation. So on behalf of the Career Ladders Project and the California Counseling Network, we are proud to support and produce these roundtable series of roundtable conversations with counselors, student support services, and others that are involved in supporting students at your institutions. And we really appreciate your joining us today to dig into this particular session today. As we begin our session today, we do always want to acknowledge the land on which we work and sit on and stand on. And we want to go ahead and have that reading as we begin our session today, which is focused on partnerships to reach and motivate new community college students. So let's go to the reading of the land acknowledgement next. I believe it's next. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll come back to the land acknowledgement. Just to let you know, we will also invite you to join the Basecamp group, which is the community of practice of the Counseling Network. So if you check the chat, you can just quickly grab that link so that you can join. I believe we're also going to be sharing it at the end as well if you don't catch it now. Let's go to the land acknowledgement. The land acknowledgement, of course, comes from our friends at the UCLA American Indian Studies Center, and it reads this way. We at CACN begin the webinar roundtable by acknowledging our presence on the traditional and ancestral lands, unceded territories of indigenous people throughout the state of California. We pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and our relations, past, present, and emerging from the lands from where we all stand together today. We encourage you all to continue learning about the traditional land caretakers where your college or high school or institution is located, and we hope to be in good relations with them. So thank you for that. We'll go on to the next slide. I also want to acknowledge and thank the many individuals who have made these roundtables possible. We've had a large number of folks that have been involved with us, but in particular, the roundtable planning team, as you can see on the slide, are made up of a number of individuals, Robert Haudigui, Heather Oshiro, Lupe Daniels, Patricia Avila, Derek Majors, and of course, Christina Sandoval with the Career Ladders Project. All of these folks have really put in heart and mind and soul into producing these roundtable sessions focused on particular topics that are of interest that from what we've learned from the field, and we look forward to having you engage with us. If you're interested, again, in joining the CACN, you will be able to get a link here during the roundtable, and we hope that you will join us as we continue the expanding of the work on the Basecamp Community of Practice group as well. I think that's it. We want to go to the purpose of the roundtables as we continue, as all of us continue during this unprecedented challenge and change that we're all going through, the disruption really. We all are trying to continue to push ourselves to be equity action-oriented practitioners and scholars of the profession of service by elevating our understanding of the deeper issues that counseling present with an equity lens. The roundtable sessions with various topics have been geared towards supporting you in your role with students. Through this community and network, we invite you to engage in sharing and learning. And we hope to hear of your examples of what you do with your students and in your institutions. We can achieve effectively strengthening and expanding the network of support for students. And through the counseling efforts that you all do, we will see the achievement of producing a network of support and community for students of color, especially low income, that deserve and really need our support right now because of the pandemic and all its impacts. Specifically, the roundtables are places that we hope that it helps connect counselors across the community college, educational systems, high schools, and others. We hope that it also produces a way for us to engage in student-centered conversation. And we have students with us today, so that's going to be a great piece of learning. And so we're looking to learn from them about their experiences and what they need and want from us. And we also hope that by coming together in these roundtables, that we share strategies and practices that help inform the way in which we construct strategies and methods to support student success. So again, today's roundtable discussion is focused on partnerships to reach and motivate new community college students. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce our brilliant facilitator today, Heather Oshiro, counseling faculty from Chabot College. She's also the lead of the CACN collaborative called CACC and is an essential partner. And I've had nothing but great admiration for her and the work she does, not just at Chabot College, but supporting the CACN work. Thank you, Heather, for the trust and partnership. It has been a wonderful learning journey with you and all the fellow colleagues that we have in the CACN. Finally, to our audience, please engage with us. Jot down your ideas, jot down things that you want to remember and go back and listen to again. So for now, let's dig into this work together. Heather?
Thanks, Luis. Gosh, I hope I can live up to that really sweet, that really nice introduction. A quick just few seconds about me. I am a counselor, a full-time general counselor at Chabot College in Hayward, California. Prior to becoming a full-time counselor at Chabot, I was a high school counselor in the area for about 10 years. I've worked in both continuation as well as a big, large comprehensive high school. So I just want to send a special shout out. I know on the call, I've already seen a couple colleagues from Chabot, some of my counseling colleagues, as well as some of my high school counseling partners who are on this call. So I'm really glad you're here with us today. With that, I want to start off by introducing our student panel today. Can go back real quick, that'd be great. We have 3 students, and really thanks to Allison Zuckerbrow, our high school counseling partner at Castro Valley High School, is able to wrestle up some students that she's known and worked with over time, and we have the luxury to hear from them directly this afternoon. Adam Blue, you're a senior at Castro Valley High School, as well as Caleb Thomas, also a Castro Valley High School student. Both, I believe, are planning on attending Chabot and will have lots to share with us about, what it's like to be a high school senior in the pandemic. Erin Chohan was a senior last year and is now a first-year student at Chabot. And so we're really just so pleased to have the 3 of you here with us to talk a little bit about what your experience has been, give us some insights, help us understand what it's like. All of us are living through this pandemic together. We're all experiencing what it's like for the first time. There are no playbook, any rules around this, and we're all just sort of like figuring it out together. But really hearing from the 3 of you, from your experiences, is going to help us all as counselors and other student support people to really understand what we can do better to help you transition in smoothly to college and be successful. So the first question, and I don't know if we can spotlight them talking while they're talking, or we're just going to leave the pictures up. I'll let the logistical professionals in the background figure that out. But the first thing I'd like to do is to just invite each of our panelists, and we can start with Adam. first, just to tell us a little bit about yourself, what your plans are. Yeah, if you could do that, and then we'll go ahead and get the other two after you, Adam.
Okay, so hi, my name is Adam Wu, and I am currently a senior at Castro Valley High School. I am a person who enjoys building and creating things, and also photography. Right now, I'm enrolled in an engineering pathway and started to create some stuff. As an engineering student, I want to become a mechanical engineer.
Awesome, thank you so much. Erin, would you like to share a little bit about yourself with us, please, and what your plans are?
Gladly. So hi all, I'm Aaron. I'm a freshman at Chabot College. Further down the line, I want to transfer to a UC and then eventually go into medical school to become an eye surgeon. So that's my endpoint, and yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. We're having a little, I think maybe the screen is not showing all of our students when each of them speak. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. If maybe we can go back to the gallery view, that might help. Caleb, could you please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and maybe what your future plans entail?
Hi, I'm Caleb Thomas. I'm currently a senior at Castro Valley High School, and I also love engineering. I'm planning on becoming a mechanical engineer as well. And currently, I build little robots for fun.
So cool. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Next slide, please. Great. So, whoa. I think we went a little bit too far. Here we go. So we have a couple of questions. The second question I wanted to ask any of you to chime in and respond to first is some of the challenges that you feel students, high school students, or brand new college students are facing as you consider post-high school education. So what are some of the challenges that are really particular to going to school in this pandemic that you're facing right now?
I think that one of the big problems that students in this situation right now are facing is kind of a lack of motivation, like, because you're not going to class, you're at home, you're in a more comfortable setting. So being in that more comfortable setting, it kind of, I don't know, I feel like it reduces your urgency and like desire to learn more because you're more comfortable. So I think some students feel that they don't have to try as hard. So then things just kind of change and that lack of motivation comes into play. So I think finding that motivation to just keep working hard is a problem or is an issue that people struggle with.
Thanks, Aaron. Adam or Caleb, do you have anything to add?
I guess, yeah, the lack of motivation for middle school students to transfer into as a freshman in high school, they lack of motivations to want to learn and actually achieving a goal that normally when you're in middle school, you would have a goal that you want to achieve, which is getting good grades and also taking the classes that you want. And then, so when they transferred into high school as a freshman, they just don't feel like they should try harder anymore because they're just online. And secondly, I think the other thing that they're lacking is kind of like their time management, because in middle school, when after school, like there's just a bunch of time that they can use for like playing video games or hanging out with their friends, whatever they can do. But when you transfer into high school, there's actually more work. And I think their time schedule, like the things that they used to want to do, like playing games and hang out with their friends, they can no longer do that like as much as they used to. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So it kind of sounds like, what happens from middle school through high school definitely affects your college plans, right? Caleb, do you have anything to add about what do you think is impacting or challenging students right now in considering what they're going to do after they graduate from high school?
I would definitely say that the sudden, adult responsibilities can sometimes hinder people's process in trying to do things, because sometimes, you're not ready for all these sudden things like signing up for scholarships or trying to sign all these applications. Some people just haven't either reached out for help or haven't had people reach out to them for help.
Thank you. I know that, as a college counselor myself, one of the things that we're really concerned about is students maybe during this pandemic feeling like they want to wait until school reopens or we can return in person. And unfortunately, we just don't know what that progress is going to look like. So I guess my question to the three of you would be, how can we as educators motivate, support a student who maybe is strongly considering not attending until colleges reopen in person? And then also with that, what are some options or recommendations that we should be sharing with students to help them decide to come to college even during this uncertainty? Aaron, would you be able to start us off?
Yeah, most definitely. So I think what educators can do to like motivate and support students is that like basically inform them of the fact that an education is one of the largest like determining factors in your success in the future. Like, because typically more schooling leads to it typically leads to a better job. So, and the way that society's going and the way we're becoming more technologically advanced and stuff, like it's important to be educated and get the proper schooling because that will help you achieve the profession that most students want to attain, because typically those higher line professions and just any profession in general requires a great deal of education to reach that.
Thanks. Adam or Caleb, do you have anything to add to that question? What can we do to help motivate a student to go to college?
I guess more of the financial aid. Like some students have they live in like a poor family, and so they don't want to just go straight into college because they have to pay for all the bills. But also other things that also considered them not to do it is because of how they should study. Like their study method also contributes to if they should go back to school or not, because if they're not really good at studying or just practicing over and over the things to prepare for the unit test or a big test, then they're gonna freak out, and of course they're not gonna want to go back to school for that. Yeah, it's like a big game challenge type of thing.
Thank you. So basically financial aid and extra academic study tutoring support is what I got out of that. Thank you so much. Can we go to the next slide here? So we had a couple of questions specifically. I know we have Adam and Caleb, who are both current high school students, and then Aaron, who's a current college student. So Aaron, I wanted to ask you first, what was the transition? I mean, you are our first high school senior graduating class during the pandemic, right? And so what was it like, being, going to college in a virtual environment and your transition from being a senior to college? What did you find most challenging and how did you get through it?
I think overall, my biggest challenge was probably just getting familiar with the Chabot way, because I've been used to CVHS for 4 years. So it's I have to adapt to a new system, a new education system, and the whole signing up process, the enrollment process, the registration process, all of that was different. So that was something I needed to get used to. But I think that was probably my biggest challenge. Other than that, I think everything was fine. Like all the virtual stuff, that wasn't as big a problem for me personally, because the second semester at CVHS, that was online. So that part was pretty much the same.
Thank you. Anything surprising for you as a new college student?
Anything surprising? I'd say no, because it takes a lot to surprise me. So.
Great, thanks. Caleb, how I know that you're taking a dual enrollment course as well, and so I'm curious, how has being a student taking a Chabot dual enrollment course helped you in your transition to college? How do you think that's going to be a support for you?
I think definitely the experience of having to do college or similar to college level work is definitely helping me prepare to go to actual college, because then I can get a little taste of what is expected of me.
Thanks. Adam, do you have anything? I think you're taking dual enrollment courses as well. Is that true? What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I'm also taking dual enrollment courses right now. And I think like, yeah, dual enrollment is actually helping you because you're just taking your feet and just dipping it in the water, which is nice. And also what you learn from dual enrollment courses, like the way you should study for the courses is different than how you should study for high school. Because high school teachers give you the worksheets and notes and you just basically fill in the blanks. And the way to study it is just study it each week. The teacher's just telling you to do it. And you have a final review that the teachers give you. However, when you're doing the dual enrollment courses, you're expected to read like a summary or like a chapter of a book, watch a movie, etc., whatever. And essentially you have to make your own study guide. It's not like high school teachers just give it to you. You have to create it yourself. And I think that will help me transition to college as I create my own notes and my own way of studying for college.
Thanks. And then Caleb, anything you want to add? What is it like to be a senior during the pandemic?
Education wise, I think it's been pretty much the same I would expect if I had to attend school, for me anyways. But I think it's also been pretty much a big bummer because there's a lot of once in a lifetime senior experiences that we're going to have to miss out of now.
Oh wait, I think we lost you there. Yeah, I just really want to, I think we lost Caleb there at the last end of that. But yeah, I really just want to kind of echo what Christina put in the chat. We really are just so proud of all of you for kind of making it through this difficult time, educationally and missing out on those really important senior things, senior activities and such. But so glad that you were able to share some information with us to help us understand what your experience is like. Any other comments that either the three of you would like to share with us that you think would be important for counselors and others to hear? Okay, thank you so much. We are actually going to move now, if we can get the next slide, move into just a quick breakout session. So Christina's gonna put everybody in a breakout session for a few minutes. And we would like for you just to have a few moments to connect with colleagues that you may not, see on your Zoom within your college. I can't say see in person, but, connect with other colleagues potentially. Introduce yourself. Who are you? What campus are you from? What's your role in your campus? And then maybe share what resonated, if anything, during the student panel. So just to have a few minutes to connect with other colleagues. And then after the breakout session, we'll come right back into the whole group session. Just please note that during the breakout session, it will not be recorded, and we'll start the recording again when we come back together as a big group. Give it a couple seconds for everyone to come back from the breakout. We can go to the next slide. And in the chat, I just want to invite everyone to really use the chat. It really has been nice in our previous roundtables to have all of the rich thoughts and questions, anything that's coming up for you in the chat, especially after our student panel. If you could please maybe share something that was a big aha for you or something that really resonated with you in the chat, or any questions that you may have for our students. There'll be an opportunity later to have a little bit of a Q&A. So thank you all for that. We're going to move into our other guest panel of our guest panelists, our professional guest panelists, and I just want to introduce everybody. We have Allison Zuckerbrow. She's a counselor at Castro Valley High School. Benjamin Barboza, she's one of my counseling colleagues at Chabot College. He's a counselor instructor. Dr. Tiffany Welter, she's a counselor in career pathways at Los Medanos College. She's also up here in Northern California. And then Noel Quintero, he's the lead counselor with college relations at Fresno City College. So not in the Bay Area, in the middle of the state. So welcome all. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And just to model a great way that we've come up with to sort of be able to direct your question directly to a particular person. If you do have a question for Noel or Benjamin or Allison or Tiffany, and you'd like to specifically ask them, you can use the chat and say, for example, Benjamin, how do you, or whatever your question is, that'll help us circle back and ask them specifically. Or if you just have a general question to anybody, you can leave it open. That would be really helpful. So our very first question for our panelists, most colleges have partnerships in place with local high schools. And so we wanted you to take a minute to share how the pandemic has led to innovation at your college or high school and helping students transition in this online environment. And I'd like to invite Tiffany to please start us off with this one.
Thank you, Heather. So Los Medanos, or LMC, already had really strong partnerships with our feeder high schools. We've been forging these partnerships pre-COVID over the last 6 or 7 years through significant partnership work. LMC, along with principals and superintendents of our 3 high school districts, have identified the effectiveness of early college credit programs as a strategy for increasing our college going rates and success of students moving from high school to college. My position as Career Pathways Counselor focuses on increasing the college going rate of students in East Contra Costa County. Additionally, this position is highly focused on bridging career education focused high school academies with career education programs that LMC offers in support of strong workforce program goals. So I speak to high schools regularly, and I also provide one-on-one counseling appointments at each of the feeder high schools throughout the year and now online. The educational planning is for early college credit courses and students and other high school students as well. They don't necessarily have to be taking an LMC class. The pandemic forced us to do what we kind of wanted to do anyways, just a little bit quicker. So I want to highlight share 3 specific online delivery modes that pertain to my specific work. So I follow up with students in these early college credit courses. And this is kind of at the heart of what I do. I provide essentially wraparound services for these students. I stay in contact with the teachers who teach dual enrollment and articulated courses. I'm either listed as a teacher in their Canvas shell so I can view students' grades, or if not, the instructors of these classes can email me a list of the students that they have concerns about. And I reach out to students directly who are not doing well through email or calling or texting, or sometimes all 3. And in some cases, if I don't hear back from the student, I reach out to their high school counselor. So that counselor can then reach out to that student as well. So we're really offering true wraparound services. So my goal is to figure out what is that they need. Do they just not like a class? Or do they not have internet? Or are they trying to do phone from their school? School from their phone, doing assignments from their phone. I've had that happen a few times. So I'm essentially figuring out what LMC resources to which I can connect them. I also send an email to all of the early college credit students. So that's concurrent, dual enrollment, and articulation. All these students receive an email from me letting them know who I am and that I'm there to support them and what ways that they can get in touch with me. And I send follow-up emails throughout the semester as well. And the newest item that I'd like to share with you is how easy it is for students to make an appointment with me. Again, this is something we wanted to do anyways, and COVID just sort of like lit the fire under us to do it quicker. But students now can use, as long as they have an LMC ID number, they can make an appointment with me. There's a direct link that students are provided. And this doesn't mean that students who have not applied to the college and don't have that LMC ID number yet can make an appointment with me. They certainly can too. They just have to call the counseling assistant and they can make an appointment. But that link is something that we're very excited about. So my role is a lot higher touch than it has been in the past. I look forward to hearing from you guys about your colleges.
Thank you, Tiffany. Does anyone else have anything to chime in on this topic? How the pandemic has led to innovation in reaching high school students and helping them transition.
From the high school side, I would say it definitely forced us to, keep our website more updated and send a lot of emails, like to outreach to the students, send them email reminders, more frequent emails. And in some ways, I feel like we're able to reach more students and families with the virtual meetings. I do feel like I will plan to continue to have some virtual meetings even in the future to allow families to attend who can't come to the school site for more evening opportunities.
Thanks. Christina, do we have any questions in the chat so far?
Yes, we have one for Tiffany. What platform do you use to send out emails to so many students?
Yes, great question. So I was just answering in the chat box. So I use regular email and I use Google Voice for texting, but the K through 12 team, or as we're trying to transition into calling ourselves the early college credit team, we have an assistant who puts together distro lists for me, essentially, because it would take me hours to, of course, email hundreds and possibly thousands of students. So what I do is I put together sort of a draft email, and then our assistant puts together the distribution list for me to send these emails to, and she can send it per class. So I can sort of address these students like, hello, Administration of Justice 110 class at Heritage High School, for example. So I can address the students a little bit more personal than just sending a blast of a couple thousand emails. Great question. And we do use Starfish, but that's not the main portal that we're currently using, but I do use that sometimes. Great question.
Thank you. Any other questions in the chat about this particular question for our panelists?
Not yet, but I do encourage everyone to look at Ariana's response. She also shared what they do at her campus.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so next slide, please. So in addition to what our students have shared this afternoon, yeah, it's a little bit out of order here, so that's fine. Okay, so in addition to what our students have shared this afternoon, what are some other challenges that new students are facing as they transition to college, and have counselors in particular develop strategies for virtual onboarding? So I'd like to invite Benjamin to please start us off with this question.
Yeah, thanks so much, Heather. I hope everyone can hear me clear and loud. You know, I probably don't have to go over what we imagine some of the challenges that students are facing, because we've probably been thinking about this since the moment that this pandemic hit, right? I could probably sit here and list a bunch of stuff, but I think that we all kind of have an understanding of what that might be. One thing that I do think about sometimes is that we don't get to hear from the students who are not here, right? We get to hear from students who are transitioning from high school to college, who are first-time students, who are taking the classes and experience some challenges. But what we do see is that there's been a drop in enrollment overall. And I think that that kind of speaks to some challenges that students are experiencing that we might not be catching because we don't get to interact with them, right? So I can just imagine a bunch of stuff, economic stuff, technology issues, you know, having to work amongst a bunch of other things, right? For me, I think that, you know, sometimes we want to really return back to this idea of what's normal, right? We hear everybody saying like after the pandemic, and I think that there's almost like some pushback to the current situation. And kind of what I've heard Tiffany and Allison, you kind of allude to, is that this forcing of us to really look at the services that we were providing and fix them right away and cater them so that they're more easily read by students, so that more students can access them, and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of good things have come out of us going into this crisis, right? And what I can say is that I think that the future holds really a lot of value for virtual services, that we're going to continue to have to offer these kinds of things hand in hand with in-person services, right? I think it's just the future of the world that we're moving into anyways. And I think that there's a lot of students who we weren't serving before who wanted virtual services that are now being served, right? So it kind of goes both ways. That being said, I'm a coordinator for our first semester planning sessions, and I work really closely with Heather and our high school collaborative to make sure that we're onboarding our local high school feeder students through a program called SOAR. And I think that some of the things we're thinking about, because we're in this virtual environment, are things that I wish we could have done earlier. Particularly what we're thinking about is going out to those high schools and doing ed planning there. I know that some other schools already do that, and we haven't gotten there quite yet, but that's what we want to move towards. And I think that this virtual space makes it easier to do some of that stuff. We're also really thinking about catering our first semester planning sessions around different themes. one of them being early college credit theme. More and more students are coming in with early college credit AP scores. And when we're bringing them into first semester planning sessions, the last thing we want to do is send them away to have to go get overrides somewhere else. And so one way that we're kind of trying to reframe the way that we think about these students is we don't want to send them anywhere else. We want to be more of this one-stop shop and take care of students from beginning to end as much as possible, right? Whether that's taking care of it in the session or whether that's being like, hey, you email me in June when your AP scores come back and I'll be able to help you get that override, right? So that's kind of like how we do some sort of warm handoff in a virtual space. It's just making sure that we're taking care of students when they're right there with us as opposed to sending them off somewhere. And if we can't do that in the moment, obviously connecting them with the person in a CC email, right? I've heard of other counselors who are in a Zoom session with one student and they'll send them to another Zoom session with another person. And you can only be in one Zoom session at once. So it'll open up that new place to send them to. And that's really like the real virtual warm handoff, right? So just some ideas like that. And then one last thing I want to mention that we're trying to do over at Chabot is really getting those students connected with learning communities that are coming from high schools to college. And we want to make the process a little more streamlined so that those students who are interested in learning communities can go straight over there and get their ed planning there, as opposed to all running through general counseling, getting an ed plan, and then having to get another ed plan with that learning community. That can be a little confusing or a little bit too repetitive for our students. So, a group of us is working to see how we can really make that process very clear. It's like, if you're in a learning community, you're going to take these steps. If you're not interested in a learning community, you're going to go this way instead, right? And along that, just advocating for technology. I hear some of you guys and the technology that you have there, and that's why I think that these conversations are really valuable, because something that I have at Chabot, you all might not have at your campus and vice versa. So anytime I hear about something, I want to, as a counselor, right, advocate for those kinds of technologies that could better serve students as well. So I appreciate having a space like that. And yeah, I look forward to hearing more from you all.
Thank you. That was so thorough, so great. Thank you so much, Ben. Let's move to the next slide, please. Our next question. And so, are there any particular partnerships or programs that you feel have helped support students in their transition? And I'd like to invite Allison, our high school counselor, to start us off with this.
Yes, hi. So I'm part of the Chabot Area Counseling Collaborative with Heather. And so definitely having that collaborative in our area has helped all of our, my high school and the other feeder high schools to get information from Chabot College in a timely manner and to give them feedback as well. And so, it was in existence before COVID, but has been even, more important now. And in addition, that through that group, we've been able to establish partnerships with other departments at Chabot. So, for example, we gave feedback on what we needed, and in the spring, there was an outreach team that was willing to host or come to our virtual meetings. So I hosted some virtual meetings in the spring for seniors who were planning to go to Chabot, where they could learn about the learning communities that Benjamin was mentioning, and get some more support for those programs. Also, just having that dual enrollment program for our students has helped, as you heard earlier from some of the students taking the dual enrollment classes. They're able to experience Canvas and ClassWeb and how to register for a class in ClassWeb. So they're getting some of those experiences now that Aaron mentioned can be a challenge.
Thank you so much, Allison, for kind of talking about our counseling collaborative and how it's been helpful for you on the high school side. I'm gonna move forward to the next, well, actually, before we move forward to the next question, are there any questions in the chat, Christina, that have been coming up, any comments that relate to either challenges or some of the virtual supports that counselors have put into place or partnerships?
I'm not necessarily directed on that, Heather. A lot of folks are commenting more about the tools like remind.com and such. But I suggest for everyone to take a look on there, and please share if you have any other different tools that have helped you.
Great, thank you so much. I would love to open it up before we move to the last question, which is a little bit more of a conversation. I'd really like to open up to any of the panelists if you have anything else that you'd like to add to what we've talked about so far. I know we haven't really heard from you yet, Noel. I invite you to also chime in if there are any great tidbits you'd like to share.
Yeah, absolutely. To capitalize on Allison's point, you know, I keep hearing dual enrollment. I'm pretty sure across the state of California, majority of community colleges do have that. At Fresno City College, we also have what we call high school enrichment. And the difference between dual enrollment and high school enrichment is that high school enrichment is student initiated, where the student is obviously enrolled in their respective high school, but they actually come to us physically and, you know, take college courses and so forth. So I think that particular partnership has helped develop students gain a sense of confidence, sense of belonging, getting to know their campus, and, you know, and to make it a smoother transition to come to a community college. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany or Benjamin or Allison, do you have anything else to add to any of the topics we've talked about so far?
Allison, go ahead. I do have one, but please, Allison, go ahead.
Something else I wanted to mention was something that I know I had wanted to do, and I think Chabot had wanted to do as well, and the pandemic forced us, was to create videos, more student-friendly videos. So Chabot has shared with me a video on how to do the CCC apply and the Chabot application that I can now share with students. And I've created little, you know, videos. What is dual enrollment? What's concurrent enrollment? Early college credit, and different little just short videos for the students explaining what these different programs there are or how to enroll in community college. So I find the students are more receptive of like short little videos versus like, you know, handouts and things like that.
Yeah, videos was a hot topic and discussions in terms of how to alleviate the transition from high school to college, specifically during the COVID time. And what we do at Fresno City College, we actually have student ambassadors who have live workshops for students who are just trying to navigate the system. It's not an easy system to navigate. You know, I could say that because I've done it for years on end. However, for someone who's transitioning, you know, to log in, to search and register for courses, it's a bit of a hassle. And so what we do is we have live workshops Monday through Friday, you know, like the prime time hours are from 9 to 3. And so these are actual students who are helping other students to, you know, better navigate the system, to make it a seamless process. And, you know, and then we transition over to videos, and we're starting to work on that. We just need to get the approval from on our end, but that the videos was a hot topic, and it's something that gets relatable to our students as well. So.
Thank you. Tiffany, did you have something else to share?
I did. Yes, thank you. So LMC has several programs and services like our strong dual enrollment and articulation, and my role as a counselor dedicated to the high schools. But another program I thought I would highlight is our what we're calling College Connect. This is only with one high school at this point, but it has a really strong enrollment impact. So we offer 2 popular college classes, like it's been drama, speech, journalism in the past, and they're held after the high school day has ended for many seniors, maybe like around 1 or 2. And we hold these classes just for this high school. And we offer them in conjunction with 2 counseling courses. So one LMC college class is connected with 1 counseling course. So students come over by bus. Their high school was able to find money for a bus. They bus them over and they take 2 college classes. And I just wanted to mention that because that's been an extremely effective transition program. On top of those 2 classes, they also have me in addition to the counselor who teaches their class. They also have me as a counselor as well for if any issues come up. So I just wanted to highlight that program also.
Thank you so much. Are there any other things that have come up in the chat, Christina, before we move to our final little discussion point here?
I think people are still, oh, sorry. It looks like there's a question for Noel. How many workshops do your student ambassadors run during 9 to 3? Do prospective students have to register for the workshops, or is it drop-in?
So it is a drop-in basis. They don't necessarily have to register, but we do have a link, and so it's repetitive. Depending on how many students we have anywhere between 2 to 3 ambassadors that have their own breakout rooms. So let's just suppose 100 come in. We'll have 10 breakout sessions, and 10 per a student ambassador. But we've been getting some really good feedback because of the simple fact that our system is not the easiest one to maneuver, and we're trying to make it as seamless as we possibly can. But they don't necessarily have to. They could register, but if they even call college relations, we could forward them the link, and they could just jump on in there. And the student ambassadors are, they have all the resources available to help them out right then and there. But that's a very good question.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, please. And we really wanted this to be a little bit more of a conversation amongst our different panelists, as well as all of you who are in the room, so to speak. So any questions that pop up or comments that you want to share, please use the chat. So the question is this, and I'll ask Noel to start us off. Given the social justice and equity issues that have been so evident, let's discuss the lessons learned in the past year and identify some emerging practices, solutions, and improvements to help Black and Brown students in their transitions to community college.
So, yeah. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate it. So when I was reading this, a lot of light bulbs came up. And so the first term that kind of, went like eureka, it was some of the emerging practices. And one example that I could give out, Fresno City College currently right now, we have been working with the Juvenile Justice Center, the JJC, and we currently are offering a college course. It's Counseling 53. And Counseling 53 is a college in management. It's a course designed to assist students to develop the necessary tools for them to be successful. And basically it focuses on personal strengths, personal values, healthy lifestyle choices. And we have this course, and it's taught on Saturdays. And I'm not sure if it was by mistake or by design, but the instructor who's teaching it is a licensed family marriage therapist. And so the class consists about anywhere between 15 to 20 students. And we have been tracking these students. And what we found out is that 70% of the students that take the Counseling 53 at the JJC Center, they are actually transitioning to Fresno City College. So we have that. It's not necessarily a pilot or an initiative, but we've been working with our local agencies around Fresno County, and because of the good feedback that we've been receiving, we're probably going to in the future add more courses. That's something that I thought of in terms of emerging practices. Some improvements that we've done on our end. We have something that's called a Rising Scholar Program, and basically what that is, it's we work with formerly incarcerated students, and we focus on men of color, which would be, male, Latinx, Afro-American. And so basically the goal of this program is to make it a categorical program. It's currently under the Vice Chancellor's office right now. We're pushing it for it to become an actual program. And so the basis of this is for, to be a mentor, to be a coach for this specific population that we have been targeting as well. And some of the solutions, and another project that we're working on is called the Hope Project. And basically what that is, it's a housing service. So it's currently under, it's currently a pilot right now, but we're focusing on students who are experiencing homelessness. And we provide substance abuse counseling, any type of mental health issues. And we're working closely with the Fresno County and Fresno City College, where we cover their rent. So they're looking at purchasing about 20 apartments, and that's something that we're doing. So in regards to helping Black and Brown students, that's something that Fresno City College is currently working on right now. That's where we're standing.
Thank you, Noel.
Mm-hmm.
Any of our other panelists have anything that you'd like to share regarding equity and emerging practices improvements to help students?
Yeah, if I could just say one quick thing, it's more general, but there's just been so many, I was in a webinar earlier listening to some stuff and it made me think about some stuff, reinforce some stuff that I had been thinking about. But yeah, there's been so many flexibilities that have been extended to students as a result of the pandemic that have been equitable in my mind. And I'm just thinking of one thing like the XW, for example, right? And that's on a larger scale, but even as counselors, practitioners, I wonder what kind of stuff that we've let go of that was actually kind of a hurdle to students that has now, we've made processes more streamlined as a result of it. And so how can we extend kind of these flexibilities that we've, experienced in this COVID era to after this as well, right? To continue to improve equity for all of our students. So just something that I'm thinking about.
Just real quick, Benjamin, you said XW, is that like an extenuating withdrawal from their transcripts?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, we kind of incorporated that same thing, and to capitalize on your point, I hope that some of these services, because of COVID, and like Dr. Welter had mentioned, it lights the fire underneath us to move forward with this on a quicker, to expedite the process. And then what I've been experiencing, and I hope that our students do it as well, where they could utilize these online services versus them physically having to go to admissions and records and do something there physically, because it has allowed us to move forward to the virtual platform. And so, at the same time, we've seen across the board in the state of California that enrollment is low. Same thing with our students transitioning from high school to college. And so these populations, I was just reading an article the other day, and it's the resource was called Untapped Opportunity. It's called California Competes, and they were talking about 6.8 million Californians between the ages of 24 and 54 only have a high school diploma and with no associate's degree or bachelor's. And so basically what I'm trying to get at is California is expecting 2.4 million, someone that could fill in these jobs. And so what I'm trying to get is that the numbers are out there. These are students that are out there that haven't been sort of targeted, or it's like an untapped resource. But that's what the pandemic has led, to future endeavors.
Thank you. Any other of our other panelists want to, chime into this conversation about social justice and equity and what we can do to help improve transition?
At the high school level, something that we do is try to meet the students and families where they're at and with the groups they're already a part of. So rather than holding a separate event, we have the Black Student Union and the African American Parent Alliance, we will go work with them, with these groups that are already existing, to go and, schedule time during their already scheduled events to go and help them with college applications or other, processes to help.
Thank you, Allison. I was just wondering, Christina, if anybody had chimed in the chat on this topic that you'd like to share.
There is one question that I can ask if that's helpful, but no one has necessarily chimed in terms of the topic.
Okay, well, I think we're going to be moving towards an open question and answer. So I think for me, just my last little chime in on this topic is that, just given, we had the pandemic and just the social justice reckoning in our country. And I feel that just seeing the conversation, whether it be online, virtual webinars, or on our campuses, in our own, meetings, and I just really appreciate the attention and the spotlight that now we're, equity is becoming something that's being integrated into our practice, and not just that month or that week or that special extra meeting. And so I appreciate the integration that this movement is bringing to all of us in our work. That would be my sort of comment right now.
Heather, could I say something about that? I can't help it because I was just coming from another series this morning on equity and counseling. And I really got the sense from the counselors that were presenting that this is the moment to speak up, because equity is not just about trying to do the right things by the students. It's also our professional responsibility to also dismantle the racism that's embedded in the core of our institutions. That's what they were built. That's how they were built. They weren't built for the students that we're trying to support, the most vulnerable, the most impacted. So I'm sorry to say well, I'm not sorry to say, I think it is our responsibility to try to address as best we can. We all have positions of influence and power. However we think of it, it may be small, but it is big. And so I think it's upon us in community, that's the power of network, to support each other in speaking up and calling it what it is, and not being afraid and not being apologetic about it.
Thanks, Luis, for sharing that. I couldn't agree more. With that, we're going to move towards just sort of, this is a new, we really haven't done this in our session so far during this academic year, but we're going to move towards, just having an open forum. And so please use the chat for any questions. I know, Christina, you said you did have one that popped up so far if you want to share. And so I believe our student Caleb had to leave and move on, but Adam and Aaron are still with us, as well as our 4 panelists. What do you have going on so far in the chat, Christina?
Yeah, I think it was addressed a little bit, but I'll go ahead and ask it so folks can go into detail. How do other community colleges provide education planning for semester 1 for new students? Wondering how counselors support this onboarding work.
Education planning for new students. Does anybody want to share a little bit more about how you're doing that in your campus?
I'll go ahead and start. Because right now it's our busiest season in college relations. This is where we go out to our high school constituents, and then we're obviously advising students who are transitioning from high school to college. And so, I always make sure that in my conversation, I make sure that they know and understand what the difference is between a synchronous and asynchronous course, because a lot of our students, particularly in the Fresno County area, are working and going to school. And so they're juggling 2 things at once. And so, versus their counterparts who are just focusing on school. And I always make sure, and I say, at the end of the day, you're going to take whatever your schedule will allow you to take. And because of the pandemic, we haven't heard anything from the state of California and or the federal government as to when we're going to come back. So I'm treating you as if you're going to be taking courses via Zoom, so it's a new learning curve, not necessarily just for students, but for faculty as well, and for myself. And so it was a great challenge, but nonetheless, here we are. And so I just make sure that I reiterate that because, like Benjamin had mentioned a moment ago, a lot of the enrollment is low, and a lot of my students, in terms of my experience, they're more of a traditional student. They want to be there physically. They want to be sitting in front of the class taking notes. Whereas virtual, like we heard the comments from our high school students, where the lack of motivation. And so to me, motivation was to go to campus, was to get parking as soon as I possibly can. It's extremely different dynamics right now that we're working with students on this virtual platform. So I just make sure that we reiterate the resources that we have, the resources that will make them successful, tutorial services, the fact that our library is loaning MiFis, hotspots, tablets, iPads, and so forth. So they could still be successful, but I always tell them at the end of the day, they choose whatever they feel comfortable. Just because I wrote a 15-unit semester is not written in stone. It's because of the simple thing. It's called life. It gets in the way, specifically right now due to COVID. So.
Thank you, Noel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing some things popping up in the chat. Bill's saying, if we had a blank slate to build a learning institution with an equity agenda to change the economic futures of underserved communities, what would a community college look like? Very interesting question. We could just start over again and do it the right way, right? Anybody? I mean, and this is just open, so feel free to answer any of our panelists or any students. Any questions that you all have in the group for any of them? Another question I'm seeing, are other counselors engaging in creating or implementing new transition programs to ensure equity for our Black and Brown students? Anybody, are we doing anything new that hasn't, that's new to our campus?
So I'll jump in to answer Bill's question. I think that's a great question. And I, of course, have a high school lens. So my thought would be to engage with the high schools as early as possible, not engaging with them their senior year for the first time. Reaching out to these high schools as freshmen doesn't necessarily mean they have to take college classes as a high school freshman. Introduce them to the college though, and what the benefits are of taking college classes or the benefits of community college in general. So my thought would be reaching out to high schools as early as possible, and also encouraging them to take classes. If they can just get 6 units of college classes, the odds of them coming to our front door is a lot higher.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm going to piggyback on what Tiffany said, but I want to push it down further, that what we have to look at now is to be more innovative. We have to make sure that we go as early as elementary. What we're talking about is engaging earlier in integrating students on a pathway leading to college and career. I think it's Mount Sac who has a summer program that is for college for kids for the summer, which starts in 3rd grade. When I was an administrator at middle school, I connected with Cal State Los Angeles, brought in Mesa, which means that our kids were connected from grade 6, was able to take it all the way through our high school at Glendale High. And then if they moved on to any program that offered Mesa at the UC or CU level, they had that connection. And it's important that colleges understand about the developing of a community. You want to engage, you want to integrate, which gives that student a community of support mechanisms to allow them to transition successfully into that, and not only successfully transitioning in, but to transition out, to complete those things in a successful way.
That's amazing. I hear you saying basically really focusing on the community, that part of the term community college and integrating it. That's so great.
So let me throw in a crazy idea at something. I would like to see a K-14 institution. I mean, I raised this with Oakley, and he actually was very intrigued, and as was the president of the state board. There are very few communities where that would work, but how would we do things differently if we didn't have different administrative reporting structures? What would it look like? And we're probably not going to get there, but that's the right question if you think about guided pathways or anything else, to be student-centered. It's not about how we, the adults, structured the administrative things or who has control over what little parts. What does each student need? And I can tell you, my grandchildren don't need this system to work well for them. I will make sure it works well for them. But I work with some communities where this system has to work because there's not enough social capital in the community that we're trying to change. And so that's, I'll try
Heather,
to
can I
shut up.
say something? Can I say something, Heather? This is Robert. You know, I agree with what was just said about the K-14. If we know the California college system, actually, I go back a number of years. I was a part of the K-14, and that's when it was called a junior college. And so and then it wasn't until the master plan going back back into the early 70s, where they wanted to separate from K to 12, but there was a longevity. For instance, you had I still remember you had teachers that were teaching at the high school, junior high, were teaching at the community college. So there was that interchange, and there was a seamless transition. Students were, this thing about dual enrollment and all this, which is great, was going on back in the 70s and 80s, and then they broke away from it. And so they severed that relationship. And now what we're doing is through all the different programs, through dual enrollment. This is something that's how it started. That's how the community college started. It was K-14. That's where it started. So I totally agree with that we need to look at that. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Yes, please.
I I've been sitting here thinking about equity and I agree with that. I mean, I think you stay around long enough and you see us kind of go in a circle. But you know, there are tremendously good examples in the community college system of programs that are addressing equity issues. You know, I think about MESA, right? Really long-standing program that has been targeting high school and community college students to get them into the STEM area of disadvantaged students. There's EOPS, which has had this long-standing focus, and it has offered wraparound counseling services for decades. There's the Umoja program that has really targeted successive students of color, particularly Black students, to succeed within their own cultural context, and Puente that has done very similarly that work. And while they have existed, they've existed in isolation of systemic change. And I really think that that is the challenge to our institutions. It's not to find something new. It's not to, you know, it's to combat the kind of arguments that have been set in place in front of these programs. They're too expensive. They're, you can't do it for everyone. It doesn't address everyone's needs. And rather flip that dialogue to, let's make this work for more students. And how do we make that work for more students? Acknowledge the work. Much of that work has been led by people of color from its sense of origin. And so it's infused with that sensibility that, that those populations bring to their own work, and they answer those questions. So I really think that as counselors and as student services professionals, we need to support that work and acknowledge it and help promote it.
Thank you, Lupe.
That's me.
Thank you, Lupe. You know, it's funny, it always breaks my heart when I hear on my campus that, you know, maybe students don't feel comfortable in general counseling, coming to general counseling, that they can only be well served in a learning community or a special program. And I'm like, wow, how is it that we have this general counseling department and yet people feel that they can't be well served? You know, to me, the fight is every student should be well served, no matter where they sit, right?
Well, and on that note, Heather, at Fresno City, what they've done was we actually dismantled general counseling, and we've created career pathways. And so within these pathways, we have everything from administrators to counselors, financial aid representatives, EOPS, you name it, so that we can offer wraparound services to those students in our pathways. Because like Noel mentioned, we have well over 20,000 students. Many of them have various needs. The majority of our students are first-gen low-income Latino, African-American students. So how can we better reach them? So it's really been a beautiful thing to see how students are connecting with our pathways. One of the pathways that I'm involved in, it's our culture, education, and society pathway. And our students have reached out to myself and other counselors in our pathways. They're like, wow, this has never happened before. You know, they always would say, tried calling general counseling, but there would be no appointments available. And so I'm just so thankful that the administration finally saw that we're not helping anyone just being in our silos. And it takes everybody to help out. So it's not just counselors. We have faculty that assist us. We're creating a video along with our faculty so that we can help students to better understand how to engage with office hours, because our faculty are just like, we have office hours every week and nobody's showing up. So little things like that, I think it's going to go a long way. So, you know, it might be, I just wanted to share that with you guys because that was us. It was the whole, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But over the past couple of years, it's like, no, it needed to get dismantled. And so, yeah, just seeing where we're at today is amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. I get to be the annoying person that tells everybody that this awesome, rich conversation is going to move. We're getting to the end of our session, but I just really want to thank everybody for the wonderful comments and just being willing to chime in and share different models and different examples and ideas. We're going to move to the next slide, which we're going to ask you all to join us in a Menti. So if you've ever done a Menti meter, the way you do that, you'll either, the link should be in the chat right there. Valeria put it in the chat. You can click on it, or you can use another device like your phone. Go to menti.com, put in the code 8582075. We have 3 questions we'd like for you to answer. The first 2, we're going to share the results together. And the last one is really just for us to get more information from you all to move forward with the planning that we do. So the first question, how are you feeling about supporting new first-time college students after today's session? So, you know, we're counselors. What is that feeling? What are the feeling words? And we'll just give it a few seconds to start populating for us to see. It takes a couple of seconds for your responses to start showing up. So I'm hopeful that we'll have something in a second. And as you're doing that, I just really appreciate all of the comments in the chat. Just want to remind everybody that the session is recorded. There is the toolkit that we'll be sharing with you with resources from today's session from our panelists, lots of different, whether it be articles or examples of things, and also some of the great things that have been shared in the chat will continue. We'll make sure that we share out with everybody. Oh, great. I'm seeing some things popping up here in the Menti. So I need to connect with this community of counselors I think it's to continue learning. Feeling pumped, excited, hopeful, validation. Okay, maybe we can move to the next one, because I don't want to bore anybody with waiting for things to pop up. So the second question, after you've submitted your first question and you go to the second, is what is one thing you heard today that you would like to know more about? And again, if you go into the chat, there's a link that Valeria put in, and it says menti.com. If you click on it on your device, you can just answer the questions quickly on your main device. This is also, Menti is a great tool to use in classrooms with students. It's really fun. And they can see, you know, their answers sort of show up in real time. I don't know, Christina, our Menti is kind of slow today.
Can everyone access the link?
Is anybody having trouble accessing the link? Oh, there we go. So one question, is there a place to get all the examples shared? Yes. So we will definitely share out in the email the response that you get with the recording, all of the examples, everything from the Menti, anything that's been shared in the chat. We'll definitely be sharing that with all of you.
Heather, I think I know what happened. That might be the old link. So I might have yeah, so I have to, let me see if I can quickly share the new one.
Thank you. Yeah, apologize for that. If anybody does have anything, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just suggest that we use the chat then for the questions?
Yes, we can also use the chat. So one thing you heard today, if you could just quickly put in the chat, one thing you heard today that you'd like to know more about. More student voices. And here's the correct link. Thank you, Christina. Here's the correct link. We would really love all of you to participate in the Menti if you can. You can even do it later if you click on the Menti link. And there are 3 questions. The third one we hadn't planned to share on screen, but we really would love your feedback. Camille says, I love the free flowing question and answer at the end. Yeah, making it longer would have been great. You know, we can talk forever. So we're going to move on and close out our session today. We're already a little, I think we're heading up on time. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand it back over to Louise.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Heather, and thank you all the panelists and especially the students and for all of you who contributed and gave your comments and questions. Thank you. Right here, we're gonna be giving you access to a resource kit that's been put together. I think you can probably click on it once you do get the slideshow, but if you can click on it or whoever's managing it so they can see what they're gonna see, once you do get it and click on it, it'll take you to a Word doc where we're just continuing to add resource material based on the sharing and whatever you contribute as well. So if you want to contribute to it, please do so when you get the link. I believe it's an open document that you can add to. This is the way that we support each other and continuing to share knowledge and expertise and experiences. Let's go to the next slide. As we're wrapping up. So the final one, final roundtable session that's coming up on April 23rd will be on counseling data and accountability, SCIF, guided pathways, caseload management, and beyond, keeping our students at the center. So of course, this sort of speaks to all the various initiatives and changes that are happening. This is obviously just a small sample, but the idea is to how do we keep the student center approach in whatever we do, which includes equity, being equity minded in our work. So we look forward to you joining us then. In the meantime, stay safe. Thank you for contributing today. We also want to re-invite you again, and you'll see the link in the chat. If you want to join the community of practice of counselors that have been engaged with us now, this is our 10th year. Can't believe it. This time has gone by so fast. We're nearing 500 counselors, staff, faculty that are in support of counseling practices, student services, both high school and community college. So this group is a wonderful network to be connected to. We hope that you will join us. Again, thank you all for all that you do with students. Keep safe and let's take care of each other and especially our students. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you next time. Gracias.